sisters, friends, everybody watching. We had some issues with the signal earlier. We're going to try again. This live stream is going to be quite an interesting one, because in this episode, what I want to do is I want to touch upon a very important question, and that's to do with the existence of God. Anyone on a spiritual journey always has the questions about who God is. What's my relationship with God? And I want to really touch upon this today. And the way I want to address this is from a few different angles, but I want to go to the Quran and share a very beautiful small chapter with you guys today, through which all of the questions someone on a spiritual journey would have about God will be answered, right? So I want to do that for you guys today. I also want to make sure that we have a very clear understanding of who God is today, right? Because most people, when they're on a spiritual journey, when they're on a journey towards God, what happens is they don't begin with the question of whether God exists or not. They begin with the appreciation and understanding that there has to be a creator. They just know that there has to be something out there, that there must be a creator behind the heavens and the earth, behind my creation, and so on and so forth. So they begin with the understanding that there is something else there. There is someone there. There's something there. You know, there is a creator that created us, right? And then from there, they ask the question, well, who is God? You know, why did he make me? What's my relationship with him? What's his nature, right? So I want to address both of these questions today, and I want to do it through the Quran itself. But before we do that, you know, I want to make sure that when you guys join, you share this as much as possible, even if you're watching this in post-recording. So after this is done and this is uploaded, that you share this video with as many people as you can on your page. If you're Muslim, this is a form of da'wah for you, right? If you're a non-Muslim, please stay tuned and make sure you watch all the way through, because I'm sure you will find this very beneficial. And especially if you're someone, you know, looking for the purpose of life, the meaning behind life, why we're here, what's it all about, so on and so forth. So make sure you share this video, whether you're watching this live or whether you're watching this after it's been recorded. Share this with as many people as possible, so the message can get out there, okay? On top of this, what I want you guys to do is, even if you're watching this post and after, please leave your questions below. We'll address them the best we can. And also click the live notification button, so as soon as we go live, you guys are notified and you know we're on live. That being said, the topic I want to address today is a very interesting topic, something that's very relevant to anyone on a spiritual journey. Anyone on a spiritual journey, and that is to do with who God is and what their relationship with the Creator is. Who is God? You know, the one that made me, the one that created me, the one that I'm trying to move towards. Who is he? What's my relationship with him? Like I said before, anyone on a spiritual journey, right? Anyone in line with their nature, they know there is a creator. They don't begin with questioning God's existence, right? And I'm going to touch upon why that is so as well. But where they begin is they begin with asking, okay, there must be a creator. There must be someone there. There has to be something there that created this whole universe, created me and created everything within this universe. But who is he? What's his nature? What's my relationship with him? Okay? These are the questions people have. And these are the questions that I want to address today and make it very easy and very digestible for you guys. And what I want to show you is that the beauty of these answers lies within God's final revelation, the Quran itself, right? And it's as God says, it's guidance for mankind. It's guidance for people, specifically people that are conscious, that are aware that there is a creator, there is something there, there is someone there that made them and created them, right? So if you are just joining, welcome to this live stream. Especially if you're a non-Muslim, I welcome you here. And I really encourage you to stay all the way through. It'll only be about 30 minutes long, this live stream. You'll find this very beneficial. And if you're a Muslim, please stay tuned and also share this video with as many people as you can. Okay? Share this with your live friends on your Facebook page, especially your non-Muslim friends on your page, or not yet Muslim, or if you want to call it people from other faith backgrounds and groups. Share this with them. You know, notify your friends, your family members, your colleagues, whoever else they are, and get this message out there, okay? So, what am I going to be talking for anyone that's joined us right now? Today we're addressing who God is, what's his nature, and what's our relationship with him. And the people I really want to address today are people who are on a spiritual journey. People who are intelligent, people who know that there is something out there, there is a creator out there. People who have realized that there's something more to life. And these people are now asking the question, well, who is the one that made everything? What's my relationship with him? How do I get to know him? How do I connect with him? Right? And these are the things I want to address today. And the way I want to do this is I want to do it through the Quran. Now the Quran is the final revelation of God, and it's a guidance for mankind. It's a guidance for us, all of us human beings. And it's through the mercy of God that He gave us guidance. And you know what's interesting? The Quran isn't something new. It's not a new revelation from God. It's not the only revelation from God. God has given us revelation throughout history. So God, since first man first stepped foot on this earth, God has sent messengers, right? From Adam all the way through to Moses, Abraham, Noah, all of these messengers. God sent all of them, okay? And He sent all of these messengers for a very specific reason, which was to guide people back to the Creator, right? To connect people back to the one that made them. Why? Because that's what we're here to do. That's our purpose of our life. That's the purpose of our existence. That's why we were created. To know God, to worship Him, okay? So, what is the message of all of the messengers who came to guide people? The message was very simple, which was worship God alone, worship God without any partners, you know, and He is the one that created you, He is the one that sustains you, He is the one that gives you everything you have in your life, right? And He is the one that we're going to return to. This was the message, right? This was a simple message. And also, within the revelation, especially within the final revelation of God, the Quran, God introduces Himself to humanity. He tells us who He is. He informs us of who He is. He informs us of our relationship with Him, right? And this is something very beautiful. So, without further ado, let me reiterate one more time, just before we go into the subject, the content of the live stream. The topic that we're addressing today is, who is God? And the main focal audience that I'm really speaking to today are people who are on a spiritual journey, people who are looking for the answers to the questions of life, people who are looking to understand who God is, their Creator is, and what their relationship with Him is, okay? And what I want to do today is to get you to really connect with who Allah, who God is, what's His nature, and what our relationship with Him is. So the way I want to do this is I want to touch upon a very powerful chapter of the Quran, which is the 112th chapter of the Quran, and it's a very short chapter. It's only a couple of verses, or ayat, which means signs, but we'll use the term verses just for the ease of this video. And in this very short chapter, God introduces Himself, right? He tells us what His nature is, and on top of this, He reminds us of what our relationship with Him is. It's a very powerful chapter of the Quran, which really allows us to understand who our Creator is, okay? So, what does He say? The first thing God says in this chapter, or before we say that, is the first question that comes to someone's mind once they understand that there is a Creator, right? And before we even go into this, the first thing I need to touch upon is, well, you know, why is it that spiritual people, people that are on a journey, people that have understood that there is something else to life, that they are here for a reason, they don't begin by questioning God's existence. They begin by asking, who is God? Right? And the reason they do this is because within our very nature, the understanding that there is a Creator behind everything, that there is a God, already is placed within us by God. It's a part of our fitrah, which is our nature, our first nature. As human beings, we have a natural disposition. And our nature, already implanted within our nature, is the knowledge of God. So we already know there is a Creator behind everything. But who is He? These are the questions we ask. And to address this, God addresses these questions within the 112th chapter, and many other places in the Quran. But specifically in the 112th chapter, God gives us a very beautiful summary of who He is and what our relationship with Him is. So the very first verse of the 112th chapter, God says, say, He is God, He is Allah, the one and only. The word used is ahad, and I'm going to break this down for you. So, the very first verse of this chapter, God says, say He is, firstly, Allah. The word Allah is used. Now, many people think that this just means Allah is just a translation for God in Arabic. But this is not the case, because Allah means, well, many of the scholars have told us that Allah means, it comes from the root al-ilah, which means He is the deity. He is the only deity worthy of worship. The only God, the only true Creator, Allah, right? So God says in the very beginning of this chapter, He is Allah, which means the deity. Who is what? God says He is ahad. Now the word used ahad, it means one, but it doesn't only mean one. So God is one, but He is uniquely one. He is the only one. There is no other except Him, right? So there is no other deity or being except Him. He is one without the other. He's one without a second or a third or a fourth. There is only Him. He is the only one. He is the only one, right? So really understand this, brothers, sisters and friends, that there is no other creator. God is telling us very clearly in the beginning, the first verse of this chapter, that He is Allah who is one, uniquely one. There is no other except Him. Okay, so what you also realize is that when you read the Quran, you understand what God is saying. It's in line with our nature, right? Because the Quran is in line with human nature, because God is the one who revealed the Quran, and God is the one that created human nature. So they're bound to come together. They're bound to fit like two pieces of the puzzle, and that's what we see. So when God says, say He is Allah, which is the only deity worthy of worship, and He is uniquely one. There is no other. This one you can't break into parts. You can't say He is one, but He's three in one, like the Christians say, or there's three parts to the one God. No, He is uniquely one that you can't break or divide or pull apart in any way, shape or form, right? So when we understand this, we realize that our Creator, our God, He's one. There is no other. There is no 3 gods or 4 gods or 5 gods or 10 gods or 15 gods. You know, there is no man God and spirit God and father God. No, there is only one Creator. And He is unlike anything you can imagine, as He says in another part of the Quran. Right? So we can't imagine Him, but He is uniquely one. Then He says that He is, the word used is Samad, right? And normally the way it's translated is that God says that He is the absolute, the eternal. But this word also means that He is perfect. He is without need. He doesn't need anything. He's independent. He is unaffected by anything in His creation. Nothing can reach Him. Nothing can affect Him. Nothing can taint Him. Nothing can, mess with God in any way, shape or form. He is perfect. He is completely independent. He is completely free of any type of need. He doesn't need anything or anyone. He doesn't need His creation, right? And what this verse does, and also this means that everything within creation is dependent upon Him. Now what this verse does, it answers another very important question that people have. Well, okay, God created me. God is one. But why does He need me to worship Him? Right? We see this question emerge a lot within people that are searching and are on a spiritual journey. And even many atheists, or the sincere amongst them that are really asking the true questions, they're sincerely inquiring about the existence and the purpose of their life. They ask the question, well, okay, God exists, fine. God is one, that makes sense, fine. Okay, all of this is fine up until now, but the next question they ask is, well, why does God want me to worship Him? Why is God needy? Why does God want me? Why does God need me? But this second verse of the 112th chapter, what it does is it clarifies this. When God says He is as-Samad, He is free of need, He's independent, He's perfect, He's absolute in every way, shape or form. And everything within creation, including us human beings, we are in need of Him. So this turns the tables. This makes us understand reality, which is that God doesn't need us, we need Him. We are in absolute need of God, right? We are completely dependent. And if we really think about it, we'll understand this. If we don't get food, we will die. If we don't drink water for a couple of days, we will die, right? So we are in constant need. We are not maintaining our heartbeat. We are not maintaining our eyesight or our hearing or any of these things. We're not in control of these things. Every facet of our existence is dependent upon our Creator, upon God. All of us, every single one of us, we are completely dependent upon God. Everything within creation is dependent upon God, without fail. We need God. God doesn't need us. A simple analogy I like to give is, imagine you buy a car, and cars are normally designed to run on petrol or diesel. These days you have cars that run on electricity, electric cars, right? Now take a car, you bought a car, and the car is specifically designed to run on petrol. Now if you put water into the tank, what's going to happen? The car is going to break down, right? Because it's not designed to run off water. The car is designed to run off petrol, right? In the same way, as human beings, we are designed to run off worshipping God, relying upon God, asking God for help, right? And God is the one that helps us and sustains us and maintains us, right? So we need God. God doesn't need us. Allah doesn't need us, but we need Him. Right? And when we realize this builds a sense of gratitude within us, and which eventually leads to us worshipping God in the true sense, right? Because gratitude and the worship of God are very closely linked. Okay, so this clarifies that point. God doesn't need us, we need him. We are dependent upon him, right? God is perfect, he is absolute, he is self-subsisting, he doesn't require anything. Then God says that he wasn't born of anything and he doesn't give birth. Now this is a very powerful verse. This is the third verse of that same chapter. Now God is telling us, who is making us aware that this our Creator, who is one, who is completely self-subsisting, just perfect in himself, and he doesn't require anything or anyone, right? He's not dependent. This Creator, he wasn't born, and he doesn't give birth. Now this verse is also very, very interesting, because what happens is, now this verse answers two very important questions within the minds of people that are searching, right? Now this answers, I would say, both groups. It answers atheists and it answers Christians. How? Well, atheists will say, well, okay, fine, God exists, fine, he is one, fine, he is subsisting, he is independent, but where did God come from? This is the question atheists ask. They say, well, who created God? Richard Dawkins himself asked this question several times. I believe he has it in his book as well. He says, well, who created God then? Right? And the simple answer God answers is, he says that he is eternal. He was not born of anything or anyone. So the simplest answer to that question is, why are you assuming God was created? We don't believe in a created God. God is not created. He is the first cause. He's the one that created everything. And this verse, what it also does, because God says that, and he doesn't give birth, it also answers the Christians. Because Christians believe that God bore a son. God had a son in some way. Now we don't believe this, because God says he doesn't give birth. God is the creator. He says be and it is. God creates things. It's not difficult for him to create, right? So when it comes to Jesus, peace be upon him, we don't say that God is a son of God. No, absolutely not. We say that God is the creator. God created Jesus, peace be upon him, like he created all of the previous messengers. All of the messengers and everything in existence. God creates, he doesn't give birth. Removing this whole concept and idea that God gave birth and had a son, and then this being who was fully God and fully son of God, at a point had a change in state and became fully man and fully God, and so on and so forth. We don't have these, because all of these lead to a can of worms. They lead to a lot of confusion, a lot of it's contradictions on top of contradictions, where the reality is very simple. God is the creator. He doesn't have children or beget children like human beings or other animals, right? God is independent. God is uncreated, and he does not give birth. He wasn't born of anything or anyone, and he does not give birth to anything or anyone. Removing the two big questions that atheists and Christians have. Number one, the atheists, what question they have is, well, who created God? Simply, we don't believe in a created God. And the Christians, what they say is, well, God gave birth to a son. We say, no, God does not give birth. He is the creator, he creates. Okay? And then God says, there is absolutely, the final verse of this chapter, God says, there is absolutely nothing like him. Kufu. There is no comparison. There is no equal. There is nothing like him. You can't, there is no one, there is nothing that compares to him. He has no equal. There is nothing you can imagine, right? This removes any anthropomorphic idea of God. Right? This removes any idea, for example, like Hindus believe, well, there are multiple gods, there are many gods, and many of them are equal, and many of these gods do different things, like there's a god of rain, and then there's the god of food, and there's the god of money. No, there is only one God, and he has no equal. He has no partner. He has no other God that helps him do things or does things. He is absolute. He is perfect. He is the only one that has all power and the complete ability to do things. There is no other creator. There is no other God. There is nothing else. Now, to summarize what we've learned from this is that for anyone on a journey, on a spiritual journey, and please do share this video with anyone else that you know that's a non-Muslim, or someone that's looking into Islam, or someone that's looking into spirituality, or someone that's looking into the purpose and meaning of life. Please share this with everyone on your, on your friends list. So let's get this out there to as many people as possible. But what we've learned, and the question I was addressing today, just to reiterate, is that people on a spiritual journey, they don't begin with the question of does God exist? Because that's not a question for them. Because the existence of God is already within our nature. It's already a part of our nature. However, what people on a spiritual journey do is they ask questions about God, about God's nature and our relationship with Him. And what's amazing about the final revelation sent by God, the Quran itself, is that it answers every single key question anyone that has in a beautiful way. And today what we did is we took a very simple, small chapter of the Quran, which is Surah Ikhlas, which is the chapter of sincerity, as it's titled, the name of the chapter. And it's only a few verses, 3 or 4 verses. And in this very small, beautiful chapter, God removes all of the questions and answers all of the questions anyone sincere, seeking God or searching for God may have. So we began with the first question. Well, who is God? God says He is Allah. Allah is the deity, the only deity worthy of all worship and praise, the only creator. And He says He is one. And this one, He's absolutely one without a second or a third or a fourth. There's no equal to Him. There's nothing else. He is the only one that created, the only creator. Right? Then God says in the next verse, and the next question someone may have is, well, fine, God exists, fine, God is one, all of this makes sense. Well, the next question I have is, well, why does He want me to worship Him? What's my purpose? Right? What's my purpose and why does He want me to worship Him? 2 questions people can have. Both are answered in the next verse where God says that He is As-Samad. And we said that this word means He obviously is absolute and He's eternal, but He is perfect. He is fully, He is self-subsisting. He doesn't require anything or anyone. He is completely independent. Perfect. He is not touched by His creation. He doesn't need His creation in any way, shape or form. He is completely independent, but all of creation, including us human beings, we are fully dependent on Him. We are fully in need of Him. Right? We require Him in every moment and second of our lives, whether we understand it and are aware of it or we are not aware of it. Right? And what it does is this answers both these questions, which is, what's our relationship with Him? He is the master, we are the slave. He is independent, we are completely dependent upon Him. We need Him, right? And therefore we worship Him. And we are grateful towards Him because we understand He's the one that provides everything for us and gives us everything. The second question this verse answers is, the second question most people have is, well, why does God want me to worship Him? God doesn't want us to worship Him, right? God said, He tells us He is completely independent. He doesn't require anything or anyone, but we are in need of Him. So God doesn't need us to worship Him. We are in need to worship God. And when we worship God, we find peace and happiness and tranquility, and we find fulfillment because we're fulfilling our purpose of our existence, which is to worship God. And I gave you a simple analogy, which was, if you have a car, the car is designed to run on petrol. If you put water in the tank, the car will break down, right? Because the car is designed to run on fuel. In the same way, we are designed to run off the worship of God. And it's not that God needs us to worship Him, but we are in need to worship God. So that answers that. Then the third question, or the next question someone may have is, well, or atheists have is, well, who created God? And the Christians will say, oh, we believe there is also the Son of God. And this next verse answers both of these questions and ideas, because God says He wasn't born of anything or anyone. Therefore removing this idea that God came from something. God is absolute and eternal, as we know from the previous verse. He doesn't have a beginning. He wasn't born. And also what it does is it addresses the Christians who say, well, God had a son. No, God doesn't give birth. God creates, right? God is a creator. He says be and it is. If He wants to create something, it's not difficult for Him. He just gives the command and the thing comes into existence. And then the final thing, someone may have the question, well, there may be other gods like this. There may be like Hindus may have conceptions of God, like, oh, there may be a God for a certain thing, and a God for money, and a God for food, and a God for wealth, and a God for the rain, and a God for thunder, and so on and so forth. No, God says there is nothing like Him. There are no equals. He is the only one, perfect, able to do all things. He is perfect in His being. So we learn from this very simple verse who God is and what our relationship with God is. He is one. He is all-powerful. He is absolute. He is independent. He is not in need of anything or anyone in His creation. And there is nothing like Him. There is no equals. There are no equals to Him. And we as His creation are completely dependent upon Him. We are completely in need of Him. And this is our creator. And this Creator has constantly sent messengers throughout history. Prophets throughout history. Why? To guide people back to Him. to call people back to the worship of God, to call people back to the purpose of their existence and their creation, which is to worship Him alone, and to realize that they're here today and they will be dead tomorrow and they will return back to God. You know, my friends, brothers and sisters, anyone listening in now, anyone that may be watching this maybe later, the reality is that, you know, our lives, we sometimes forget that, you know, we didn't exist at a point. You know, because we think that the way we think right now, the way I am right now, is the way I always was. Whereas the reality is that about 20, 30, 40 years ago, maybe 50, 60 years ago, everyone watching this right now, and everyone that may watch this later, we didn't exist. If you imagine you had a time machine and you could rewind the time back. If you were to rewind the time back, there will come a point where you turn into a smaller and smaller child and then a baby, and then you turn into a drop of dirty fluid and then you don't exist. Right? This is our reality. If we rewind the tape back, there was a point where we didn't exist. And then there was a point where we were a drop of semen. Right? And then there was a point where we were in our mother's wombs for 9 months and we were just a lump of flesh, a lump of atoms and molecules. Yeah, just matter. Right? And then there was a point where we developed into a fetus and then a baby and then we were born into this world. Right? And then we grew. But unfortunately, as human beings, we get so distracted in this life that we just think we were always like the way we are today. But the reality is no. We were nothing at a point. And another reality is that we are moving towards a time where we will become nothing physically. We will die. We will enter our graves. Most people don't like thinking about this. Right? And this is human existence. The human condition is sandwiched between these two realities. That is, we come from something dirty, which is a despised little dirty fluid, semen, and we go into something dirty, which is the ground, the earth, mud. Right? But the sad thing is, as human beings, just because we are at this middle stage right now between these two realities, we somehow become so arrogant and so full of ourselves that we start to think that we don't need God anymore, that we are independent, we don't require Him. We start to challenge God, right? But the people that are on a spiritual journey, that have had an awakening, they know there is more to life. They realize this. There are people who have considered and thought about where they came from and where they're going. You know, and this is why God says in the Quran that, you know, that He created. This is just one verse. There are many verses like this. God says that He created us from a drop of despised fluid, right? And almost instantly, this creation stands in front of God as a challenger. We start challenging God. We start questioning God. We start trying to argue against God's existence and do all of these things. When we don't stop and think, the brain and the mind that we're using to challenge God, where did that come from? There was a point where we couldn't think like this. There was a point where we couldn't reason like this. There was a point where we didn't even exist. And there's going to come a time and a point where we don't exist. So why have we become so arrogant at this point, this middle point, this juncture in our lives? Why have we become so arrogant at this point? The most rational thing to do is to realize where we come from and where we're going, and to turn back to our Creator, the one that made us, the one that sustains us, and the one that gives us life and everything. You know, and if we really think about it, God tells us, just to give us another perspective, change in perspective, God tells us in the Quran that everything in existence, everything around us, every single thing around you right now is constantly worshipping and praising and glorifying God. Constantly doing this. If we think about it, every atom and every cell of everything that exists is constantly glorifying God. Constantly maintaining the glorification of God since the time it was created till the time it will exist. However, us human beings, the best of creation that God tells us, and even Christians believe this, right? We are the best of creation. Us human beings can't glorify and praise and worship God. The being that has the ability to reason and to think and to understand the things we're discussing today can't stop and praise and glorify God. When God has made it so easy for us, He's given us revelation, something we discussed earlier today. He's given us an intellect to reason with and think with. He's also given us a nature, the pure nature, the fitra, which already has the knowledge of God within it, right? The understanding that there is a creator, there is something there. God has made it easy for us. He's laid it out for us. He's spoon feeding us, literally, right? He's made it so easy for us. All we have to do is just realize and turn back to God. right? That's as simple as it is. Realize and turn back to God and worship Him. And you know what's interesting? When we do this, this will benefit us. When we turn back to God and worship Him, as we discussed earlier, God doesn't benefit. Allah's not going to benefit. We will benefit. We will be the ones that will be successful in this life. We will be the ones that find peace in this life. We will be the ones that find good in this life and the life to come. Right? So the benefactors are us. And again, this is the mercy of God, showing God doesn't require us or need us. He is doing all of this for us, right? Guiding us, giving us revelation, sends us messengers, sends us reminders. Why? Not for Him, for us. So we benefit. You know, and the people that turn away from God, the people that turn away from the remembrance of God, God tells us in the Quran, they're the ones that have a depressed, restricted, tight life. Their life is restricted. Their hearts are restricted. They're depressed. They're anxious. They're upset. You know, they can have all of the luxuries of this world, but they'll never be happy. They'll never truly be happy until they connect with God, turn back to God and do what they were designed to do, which is to worship God. And this is and another part of the Quran, God says, those people that remember God or believe, their hearts find remembrance, or their hearts find peace and tranquility in the remembrance of God. This is the key. This is the key, brothers, sisters, and friends. So, you know, I encourage anyone that's sincerely watching this, you know, and that's looking for the truth, think about what I've said today. Pick up a copy of the Quran, read it, study it, realize that this is revelation. These are the literal words of God Himself. And He is revealing these and giving these to us, not because He wants to benefit us in any way, shape, or form. He's not going to benefit. He's perfect. But that we can benefit. It's for us. Right? You know, when people, normally we turn away from people that want to benefit off us, right? We don't, because we realize that, right? Because people sometimes, it's human nature. People are good to people because they want to benefit off them. It's always a selfish reason behind it. However, with God, there's no selfish reason. He is doing all of this for us. Not because He's going to benefit, so we benefit, right? This is God. This is the difference between Allah, God, and us human beings. Right? He is God and we are we. This is why the best relationship anyone can have, the best being anyone can rely upon and turn to and have a relationship with is God, not other human beings. If you put your trust in other human beings, you know, you rely on others, you're not gonna. At the end of the day, it's inevitable they'll let you down in some way, shape, or form. However, Allah, God, will never let you down. He will never let you down, and He wants best for you, and He wants best for everyone. You know, so think about these things. Please leave your questions below. Once I go off this live stream, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the questions, see if there's any questions, answer them for you. So stay tuned below this. Please share this video as well, whether you're watching this live now, or whether you may watch this later on. Please do share this video with all of your non-Muslim friends. Please also click the notification button at the bottom of the screen right now, because whenever we go live, you guys will be notified and you guys will know whenever we're on live, so you can tune in, watch it, and also share this with others, inshallah, God willing. So I'm going to conclude here, you know, and just to summarize, we have a creator. Our creator is one. Our creator is independent. He is perfect. He doesn't require anything or anyone. We require Him. And He wasn't born of anyone, and He doesn't give birth, right? So He doesn't have sons or daughters. He's perfect. He's one. He's the creator, and there is nothing like Him. There are no equals to Him. There are no partners for Him. And this very creator, you know, as majestic as He is, as perfect as He is, He loves us and He cares about us so much that He's given us revelation and guidance through the prophets throughout the history, and He's given us His final revelation, which is the Quran, and He is preserving it for us so we can benefit from it till the Day of Judgment. So turn back to it, read it, study it, understand it, and connect with God again. And anyone watching this who is ready and understood the reality of life and wants to become Muslim and knows this is the truth, all you have to do, the first steps you have to take, is acknowledge what you believe with your heart, which is to take the declaration of faith, which is to testify and say that I bear witness that there is no God, there is no deity, there is nothing worthy of worship except Allah, the only deity worthy of worship, Allah alone, God alone. And I bear witness that Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, the one that was given this revelation, is his final messenger. And I believe in all of the previous prophets and his angels and his books and so on and so forth. That's the testification. If you do this, you come into the fold of Islam. The Arabic I'll give you as well, which you should repeat too, which is Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh, which is the same, which in English, which is I bear witness that there is no deity worthy of worship except God, and I bear witness that Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, is his messenger. Once you say this, you become Muslim, you enter the fold of Islam, and may God bless everyone that's watching. Like I said, please share this video, please click the notification button. I'm going to go offline now, and I'm going to go straight to your questions, see if there's any questions, and answer your questions. So please stay tuned in the comment section below, and I will try my best to answer them the best I can. Until next time, thank you guys for watching. Assalamu alaikum, which means may the peace and blessings of God be upon everyone. Assalamu alaikum.